You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. Before the inauguration of President Biden came the impeachment of President Trump. 10 Republicans joining Democrats in the House to impeach the president a second time, this time for incitement of insurrection. The Senate trial could start as soon as this week, but some Republicans argued convicting a former president would sow new seeds of division and only undercut the calls for unity.
You don't say to a president, do whatever you want in the last months of your administration. You're going to get a get out of jail card free because people think we should make nice and forget that people died here on January 6th.
Joining us now is Republican Congressman Darin LaHood from his offices on Capitol Hill. Congressman, good to have you with us. You're a Republican who voted against impeaching President Trump. Do you agree with Mitch McConnell that the president provoked the mob and fed them lies before they stormed the Capitol steps on January 6th?
Well, two things. I voted not to impeach the president, partly because there was no investigation, there was no due process. This country's predicated when you're accused of something of having due process and to go through that. That never happened. Secondly, listen, I condemn what happened on January 6th in the strongest possible terms. It was a terrible and embarrassing day. And what I've said as a former state and federal prosecutor, Mark, is those people ought to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law for their criminality, for the domestic terrorism they engaged in. And as of today, we have about 150 arrests towards that. Again, and if we talk about uniting the country, which is the message we heard from President Biden yesterday, I can't think of a more divisive way to divide, to do that than an impeachment trial with a president that is gone from office.
You've also said that an impeachment is an inherently political process. I know Congressman Davis has said that line before, certainly. And so we are in that middle ground between prosecuting in the court of law and the political arguments which are in the court of public opinion here. What degree of culpability or liability does a public official, an elected official, even the leader of the free world have for getting on a megaphone and for weeks and weeks and weeks saying things like the election was stolen from us? If they did this, the Democrats, we would have hell in this country. It would be a mob and really whipping up a frenzy. What degree of culpability did the president have for getting on the megaphone, on the microphone, and whipping up this frenzy for so many weeks?
Well, what I've said, Mark, is words do matter, particularly from public officials and the president. And there is some responsibility that he shares in that. And I've said that publicly. I know that he has said that. A number of our leaders have said that. But that's one thing. The second thing is to go to an impeachment trial with a president that's gone. First time in our history that's ever happened. And from my perspective, we need to move on. If we want to talk about unity, bringing the country together, and listen, we had a divisive election. The last 70 days have not been good for the country. And of course, that culminated with January 6th, which was an embarrassing and terrible day. So for the goodness of the country, I think we need to move on. I don't think the votes are there in the Senate to go through in a full impeachment trial that is going to take up a lot of time and energy. So the president is responsible for his words, but I don't believe the impeachment is the right path to take.
Why sign your name to a bogus lawsuit in Texas that the courts quickly rejected?
Well, listen, what I've said all along is the courts ought to decide whether there was election fraud or irregularities or improprieties. What better way than the Supreme Court, a non-biased, independent part of our judicial system to look into that? That's why I signed on to it. And as you're aware, I did vote to certify the election because that was our constitutional duty and the right approach to take, in my view. We didn't have any other choice based on the Constitution. I never envisioned that the Constitution would want Congress to overturn the will of the people. That's why I voted to certify the election. But again, that's what courts are there, are to look into improprieties and irregularities. That's why I signed on to the brief, to have them look at that. And they made a decision in a quick and swift way not to take up the case.
I hear you that you don't think Congress should overturn the will of the people, but in signing your name to that lawsuit, it seems ideologically inconsistent for a Republican who believes in a federalist system that the people in one state or a political party in one state could overturn the will of the people in another state. I can't imagine you would ever support a lawsuit from Texas or California that sought to overturn the election results here in Illinois.
Well, what's disturbing to me, I wish every other state around the country ran elections like we do in Illinois or other states like Florida. But when you look at what occurred in Philadelphia, in Detroit, in Georgia, in Arizona, what concerns me is they are doing things that are completely different than other states do them, where you have unelected officials making decisions on when votes can be counted and when they can't. There's constitutional issues related to that. But again, that's what courts are there for. And to sign on to a lawsuit to ask the Supreme Court to look into those improprieties, those irregularities, that possible criminal action was why I signed on. And again, they made that decision. And that's why, having finality and having them certify that was the right approach.
Possible criminal activity, in your words. It seems you're more ready to indict people, unspecified people with little or scant evidence. You're more ready to indict there than you are a president who's on the mic, on television, on the record, encouraging a mob.
Well, listen, I mean, you saw with our impeachment vote, there was only 10 Republicans that supported impeachment. So, I guess the vast majority of Republicans and others, that's why I don't think it's going to go anywhere in the Senate. Impeachment is not a way to unite the country. It just isn't. And secondarily, this president is gone. He is removed from office. This will be the first time in the history we're conducting an impeachment trial after a president has left office. So again, there is culpability there. I wish the president would have used different words. I wish he would have been more responsible in the way we went about it, but he's gone now. And we have a new president, and we've turned the page, and we ought to look for ways that we can work together as a country, as Joe Biden talked about. Impeachment is not the way to do that.
All right, Congressman Darin LaHood joining us from Washington. A fascinating conversation. Thank you for joining us. When we come back, can the new Biden administration deliver on the promise of a bailout for Illinois' state budget? The new #2 House Democrat Jahan Gordon Booth joins us from Peoria. That's next.